Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles with me, Anna Rebecca Quinn. I will be your Miracles hostess for the next hour and a half as we talk about A Course in Miracles, what it says, how to apply it, and how to experience the miracles that result from the application of these principles. Like I always say, they don't call it A Course in Miracles for nothing. This is a course in miracles. It is a course, it is a curriculum in how to experience miracles as natural, which they are. That's what A Course in Miracles teaches us, that reality is happy, reality is kind, reality is abundant. And so when things are happy and kind and abundant, you are experiencing that which is natural. Miracles are natural. When miracles don't occur, something has gone wrong. So we are going to be talking about A Course in Miracles, what it says and how to apply it. Hi, Trisha. Lovely to see you. And Trisha, can you hear me okay? You're watching me on YouTube. Can you hear me okay? Doing a little sound check here. So let me know if you can hear me, if you can't hear me, so that we can get the sound check part out of the way. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for joining this broadcast. I appreciate you being here. And if you wouldn't mind liking, sharing, and subscribing, that will help the algorithm to perceive that this is valuable content and we'll push it out to more folks. And truly, what does the world need more than the ideas of A Course in Miracles? The ideas of how to allow miracles to be experienced as natural. All right. Everybody is entitled to miracles. That's what A Course in Miracles says. A Course in Miracles has us say, I'm entitled to miracles. I will receive them because I am a child of God. I am entitled to miracles. So that's the truth. And what A Course in Miracles is about is just unlearning the untrue that we had learned in the past. So it's really not about doing anything. It's only about unlearning. Because once you unlearn what was never true, then what you have left is the good, the beautiful, and the holy that you've always been, that you just forgot about. So it's just about undoing, unlearning what you had falsely learned about being separate and guilty and alone and unworthy and all those things, so that what you are truly can come back into its own. All right, you guys. So, beautiful. We're going to be studying from A Course in Miracles, and where we're going to be in the Course in Miracles today is in the Teacher's Manual. So, the Course in Miracles consists of 3 books: the text, the workbook, and the Teacher's Manual. 3 books comprise this curriculum, and a couple others that were added in that came through the scribe, Helen Schuckman. But we're going to be in the 3rd book of the course, called the Teacher's Manual. And that's the last section in the book after the workbook, if you're looking. Hi, Naya. Lovely to see you. So happy you've tuned in with us tonight. Beautiful. Naya says, I'm excited for tonight's lesson. Me too. Welcome back. Okay. So we're going to be in the Teacher's Manual, which is the last book in the course, and we're going to be in question number 15. And this question is each one to be judged in the end? You know, that old question. It sounds so biblical. Strangely, a lot of the sections that I've been doing lately have such a biblical tone until you start reading it. Jerry says, and they are all packed with massive miracles content. Right on, they sure are, Jerry. Lovely to see you, dear. Okay, So the teacher's manual is a manual for those who have read the text, gone through the workbook, and now can be considered a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And these are the questions that often come up for people who are studying the Course in Miracles and want to share them, extend them, apply them to others, with others, so that they can learn them for themselves. So it asks 29 questions. So we are going to be in, let me put this up here, where we're going to be, in case you want to follow along in the book. So you got ACIM, Teacher's Manual, question number 15, is each one to be judged in the end? All right, beautiful. Thank you, thank you. Welcome everybody, Trisha and Naya and Jerry. Lovely to see you all. Thank you all for being here. Let's talk some Course, shall we? Course in Miracles is always so juicy, so deep, and so powerful all the time. The Course in Miracles just doesn't let up in its power, in its beauty, in its loveliness. So, okay, so the question is each one to be judged in the end? Okay. So, in all of the religions, all the Abrahamic religions of the world, there's this concept of the final judgment. And this concept is like, oh, in the end, God will judge you. And you should fear this judgment because you know God's judgment is something to be feared. So in all of our religions, we have this concept of final judgment where God's going to make this final judgment, and you know it's something you got to be afraid of. So that's what we've heard. Everybody's going to be judged in the end, and usually it's not very good. All right, I gotta let the pup in. Do you want to come in? Do you want to come in? All right, come on in. Okay. Got to let the pup in. She got to be close. All right. Do you want to be part of the class tonight? Is that what's going on? All right. This is Spirit, my little miracle mascot, who's going to join us today for our class. And so if the class gets a little intense, just look at Spirit, and she will lower your blood pressure for you. A little pet therapy there. Okay, so the course is going to talk a little bit about this concept that we've all been traumatized and terrified by all our life. Like, ooh, you're going to be judged in the end. It's not going to be good. What we learned about the concept of God's judgment was not good. You wanted to avoid that at all costs. And it's definitely something to be feared, and definitely why a lot of us fear death. You know, we learned falsely in the past that when you die, then you're going to go before God, and God's going to judge you. And we've all learned that God's judgment is always not so very pleasant. Okay? And what we've learned about God and what we've learned about God's judgment and what we've learned about all that is wrong. I am happy to say, oh, so wrong, right? The Course in Miracles is telling us in this section what God's final judgment is. To say, yeah, God's got a final judgment, which means God's last judgment. That means God has the final say. God has the final say on who you are, what you are, and what you deserve. God has the final say, and that's the final say. That's the last judgment, right? And it also says something that is the opposite of what we learned, in that God's final judgment is only loving. It is only loving. It only speaks for your loving truth. That's it. So we're going to hear what God's final say is, right? Who do you think should have the final say on you? You who did not create yourself, or God who did create yourself? So we're going to hear what the final word on you is. So any judgments you've made on yourself, that's not the final say. That's just your perception. That's just your judgment. And is your judgment on yourself only loving and always loving? No, I didn't think so. But God's judgment on you is always loving and only loving. That's why we want to go with God's judgment on us, because God's the one who created us, and God's the one who only judges us with love and only love forever. Okay? That's not how we judge ourselves or each other yet. So we want to go with God's final say, not our own. Just remember, we did not create ourselves. Okay? All right. Last ACIM. I love it. Beautiful. Not God is not a God to be feared. Amen to that. Exactly. I love it. You know, before A Course in Miracles, I loved God, but I feared God, right? But A Course in Miracles taught me the truth about God as only love, only love. And what I learned about God through A Course in Miracles made me fall in love with God. I was in love with God a long, long time ago, but then what I learned about God made me afraid of God. And then A Course in Miracles reminded me about the true nature of God, which is only love, that God only loves, that God only gives, and God never takes. God is only love. And so I was able to come back to my native love for God, my first love, through A Course in Miracles. And I never looked back. All right, so here we go. So we are in the Teacher's Manual, which is the third book of A Course in Miracles, and we are in question number 15 in the Teacher's Manual, and the title is each one to be judged in the end? Are each one of us going to be judged in the end? Right? That's the question that this is posing for us to ask, so that the Course in Miracles can answer it for us. Okay? Do I need to be worried? Is God going to judge me in the end? And do I need to be worried about that judgment? You know, thinking about all the things I've done, do I need to be worried about God's judgment? Okay, so that's the question that this is going to answer. And it starts off saying, indeed, yes, each one is to be judged in the end. Why is that? That's because, see, good. Thank you, Jean. That's because no one can escape God's final judgment. So yeah, everyone is going to be judged in the end, because no one can escape God's final judgment. And who could flee forever from the truth? So yes, each one is to be judged in the end by God, because no one can escape God's final judgment. And who could flee forever from the truth? But God's final judgment will not come until God's final judgment is no longer associated with fear. So yeah, God's gonna judge everyone in the end. And that will be God's final say. But the acceptance, you're hearing God's final judgment on you, God's final say on you, will not come until you no longer associate God's judgment with fear. So I don't want God's judgment, God's final say on me, because I associate God's final say on me with fear. I associate God's judgment on me with fear. I assume, because I learned that God is judging me, I assume that God's final judgment on me will be a fearful one. But that's blocking, so that's making me not want to find out what God's final say is on me. I've got all my judgments on me, and then I got everybody else's judgments on me. But I'm afraid to go to my source, the one who created me, to say, what's your final say on me? I'm afraid to do that, when really God's the only one with the final say, because God's the one who created me, not me. I'm afraid to do that because I associate God's final say on me with fear, because that's what I learned in the past, unfortunately. Last I Am says, I like that. She says, I was raised Southern Baptist, and as a child, I believed in fire and brimstone. Very fearful. I was raised Jewish as a child. Very, very, very traditional Jewish. And the God of the Old Testament, the God of the Torah, very fearful indeed. And, so I learned that I should fear God's final say on me. I learned to fear God, and so I stopped taking my judgments on myself or other people's judgments on me to God, the one who created me, to ask God, you're the one who created me, what's my truth? I was afraid to do that, so I didn't do that. And I feared God's final judgment, so I didn't ask for it, and so I never received God's final say on me. I was just suffering from my judgment on myself and other people's judgments on myself. Okay, so we're learning what is the truth about, who is my true authority? Is it me, what I learned about myself from people who didn't know the truth about themselves? Who is the authority on me, right? Is it me who didn't create myself? Or is it the one who created me in love, as love and only love, right? So that's the question. So, is each one to be judged in the end? Indeed, yes, because no one can escape God's final judgment, because who could flee forever from the truth? But God's final judgment on you will not come until God's final judgment on you is no longer associated with fear. One day, each person will welcome God's final say on them, and on that very day that each person accepts, welcomes God's final say on them, then God's final judgment, God's final say on them will be given them. On the very day that you say, God, you are the final word on what I am, I welcome that. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want. I want what you say I am. What do you say I am? My author, my creator. Okay? One day, everyone will welcome God's final say on them. And on that very day that they want it, it will be given them. And they will hear God's final judgment, God's final say on them. And here's what they're going to hear. When that one day happens, where you finally want to hear from the real authority, your true authority on you, who is only loving, who's only love, then on that day, this is what you're going to hear. You ready? This is God's final judgment, final say on you. This is the final say of your true authority. And it's this. You are going to hear your sinlessness proclaimed around and around the world, and God's final judgment on you is going to set the world free as it frees you. As you receive God's final say on what you are and who you are, it is going to set the world free as you accept God's final say, God's final judgment on you. The world will be set free. Oh, great. Okay. Oh, interesting, Naya. Yes, indeed. Yeah. You know, in my perception, all of the religions, um, all of the religions make us fear God's judgment. All of the religions speak of a fearful God. Honestly, all the religions are very bipolar. They say God is love, but then they portray a vengeful God, a judgmental God, a wrathful God, a jealous God, a punishing God, and then they go, but God is love. And so the Course in Miracles is telling us that God is not wrathful. God is only judgmental and just saying, you know, I have the final say because I created you. But the God, as A Course in Miracles reveals to us, God is only love. God is not vengeful. God is not jealous. God is not, God does not play favorites like, oh, these are my chosen people and these are not. Right. So all of the religions and other, and even if you didn't come up in a religion, but all the religions speak of a God whose judgment is not only loving and should be feared. Whew. Now all the religions teach to fear God, to fear God's judgment. All religions teach that, which means they teach that God is not only loving, that God is cruel, that God is wrathful, that God is jealous, that God is punishing, that God is selective, that God plays favorites, right? So who wouldn't fear a God like that? Of course you would. But when on that very day, when we stop fearing God's final judgment and we trust that God is loving, and we go to God and we say, God, what is your final say on me? What is the truth about me? I've learned something about myself that I don't think is true because it didn't make me happy. And the judgments I've made on myself, they haven't made me happy. And so you're the one who created me. You're the true authority on who and what I am. Am I bad? Am I guilty? Should I feel afraid? Should I feel guilty and ashamed? What is the truth about me, God? You who created me. What is the truth about me? I'm asking for your final say. Okay? And on that very day, you will receive it, because the only reason you haven't heard it till now is because you didn't want it. You weren't asking for it. Our God, in the Course in Miracles, says God has given you everything. Everything. But you don't know that because you're not asking that of God. And so you don't know what God has given you, and that God has given you everything, which means you lack for nothing that you could need to be perfectly happy right now and forever. Right. So I don't know the truth about myself as God, as love created me, because I'm not asking. And God, love, knows that until I'm asking, that I don't really want it. Because love knows that, well, whatever Anna wants, I know she asked for. And so love's like, well, she's not asking, which means she don't want it yet. And love never pushes itself on you. Love always waits on welcome. It's the fear, it's the ego that doesn't care what you want. And it pushes its unloving will on you involuntarily, without asking. But love waits on welcome, not on time. So you don't know what God's will for you is. You don't know what is the reality that God has created as your reality, because we're not asking. And so love has to wait on welcome. So But for the truth is, though, at some point, everyone, and I say everyone, that means all of God's creatures, all of God's creations, every one of us will one day seek out and ask, what's your final say on me, God? And on that very day, they will receive it, and the world will be set free through them on that day. Beautiful. Nice. As I find that so also, I was baptized Catholic. I really honor the course for its loving teaching and its forgiveness. Right on, Naya. Thanks for sharing that. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, great. So, okay, great. Thank you, Jean. Beautiful. All right. Okay. So let me get back to what it said. It said, one day, every single person will welcome love's judgment, God's judgment on them. And on that very day, love's judgment on them will be received by them, and the world will be saved through them. And here's what you're going to hear on that one day when you welcome God's judgment, God love's final say on you. This is what you're going to hear. This is all you're going to hear. You're going to hear your sinlessness proclaimed all around and around the world. That's what you're going to hear. So until you have heard your sinlessness proclaimed around and around the world, you are innocent, you are guiltless, no matter what mistakes you have made. The truth about you is you are sinless and you are guiltless. Until you have heard that final say, you haven't heard love's final say. While you're still listening to your own judgments about yourself, about how you're guilty and you should be ashamed and you don't deserve only love and they don't deserve only love and they don't deserve forgiveness and you don't deserve to be happy, until you've listened, as long as you're listening to your judgments on yourself, then you won't be hearing your sinlessness. So you are not hearing the truth about yourself. God's final say, love's final say, who created you, love's final say on you. If you are not hearing your sinlessness being proclaimed, you are not hearing love's final say on you. You've not heard the final word. Until you've heard your sinlessness being proclaimed around the world and around the world again, then you haven't heard God's final say. You haven't heard love's final word on you, which means you haven't heard the truth. Good to know. Good to know when I am hearing the truth about myself and when I'm not. And if you're not hearing your sinlessness being proclaimed around the world and watching the world be released through you, then you haven't heard the truth about yourself. You're still listening to your judgments on yourself, what you learned about yourself from the past, from people who don't know the truth about themselves, because they haven't taken their judgments to God for God's final say on them. That's right. So if you haven't heard your sinlessness being proclaimed, you have not heard the truth about yourself, which means you have not welcomed love's judgment on you. You're just still listening to your old past programming, your old past brainwashing, your old past learning that you learned from people who did not know the truth about you or themselves. All right. Now, it says, love's final judgment on you, which is your sinless now and forever. This is the judgment that will save you. This is the judgment that will liberate you. God's judgment on you as sinless now and forever is the only thing that will set you free from any lack or limitations that you experience. This is the judgment in which your complete liberation lies. What judgment? Love's judgment. God's judgment. What's God's judgment on you? You are sinless now and forever. That's how I created you to be, and that's how you will always remain. And anything else that you experience is just your dream that you are dreaming and having a nightmare in. Okay? This is the final say. This is the one truth, the only truth that is coming from the source of truth, the source of creation, the source of reality, God. All right. So God's final judgment on you as sinless now and forever, that is the judgment in which your total liberation awaits you. This is the judgment that will set you free. Set you free from anything that seems to bind you or to limit you or to hold you down or to hold you back. God's judgment, love's judgment, that you are sinless now and forever, this is the only judgment that will actually set you free from whatever seems to bind you or limit you or hold you down. God's judgment, God's final judgment, that you are sinless now and forever, this is the judgment in which all things are freed with you. Now, time pauses as eternity comes near, and silence lies across the world that everyone may hear this judgment of you, of me. And it is this. This is God's final judgment on you, on me, and everyone. And as it's about to be spoken, as love's final say is about to be spoken on everyone, everywhere, time pauses as eternity comes near, and silence lies across the world, so that everyone may hear this judgment of themselves. And it is this. Here's love's judgment on everyone. Holy are you. You are eternal. You are free. You are whole and complete. And you are at peace forever in the heart of God. That's God's final say on you. When I finally one day welcome love's final say on me instead of my pitiful appraisal of myself, all I'm going to hear the voice of God in my heart, in my mind, saying to me with total certainty and total love. I'm going to hear it saying within me, you are holy, you are eternal, you are free, and you are whole, you are complete. And you, where you are, is you are at peace forever in the heart of God. That's what you're going to hear. One day, when you welcome love's final say on you, instead of your own pitiful appraisal of yourself. Now, once you hear that judgment, once you hear love's final say on you, once you hear God's final judgment on you, that you're sinless now and forever, you're holy, you are free, you are eternal, you are complete, lacking nothing, and you are at peace forever in the heart of God. Where's the world? And where's your sorrow now? After you hear and accept God's final say on you, you are sinless now and forever. You are free. You are free. You are eternal. You are holy, and you are complete. Where's your sorrow? Where's your sorrow now? Where'd it go? It's a great question. Where does your sorrow go when you accept God's final say on you? And that's kind of a rhetorical question, right? Because when you accept love's final say on you, your sorrow is nowhere to be found. You can barely remember it. Excuse me. Okay. So that was the first paragraph where we heard what love's final say on us is. And notice it didn't have anything to do with what we learned about ourselves, or how we're guilty and separate and alone and unworthy, etc., etc. Notice that that love's final judgment on us had nothing to do with what we had learned, because we didn't create ourselves. How could we be the final say on us if we didn't create ourselves? So we heard what love's final say on us is, and we also heard what happens for us once we've asked for that and once we have accepted it. And what happened? Our sorrow disappears. Our sense of imprisonment, our sense of being shackled and held down and held back, the shackles disappeared. The shackles broke loose. We experienced our complete liberation, our complete freedom. We experienced salvation. Right? That's salvation. Isn't, oh, I'm saved from the evil wretch that I am. That's not salvation. Salvation is when you accept the liberation from the false belief system of sin and guilt that we learned about ourselves. That's what liberation really means. Okay? It means I have escaped from the false belief system that taught me that I was separate and guilty and sinful and alone. I have learned the truth. I went to the author of reality and asked the author of reality. I asked the author of me what the truth about me was. And on that very day I received it, and all my sorrow went away. Where's your sorrow now? It asks. Great rhetorical question. All right. Now, let's review God's final judgment on us. Okay, so let's review it real quick before we go on to paragraph 2. This is God's final judgment on us. You are holy. You are eternal. You are free. And you are whole and complete, lacking nothing. And you are at peace forever in the heart of God. That's God's final say on us. Now, here's another question, another rhetorical question that the author of the course loves to ask. Paragraph 2. Now, is this your judgment on yourself, teacher of love? Is that your judgment on yourself, that you are holy, which means guiltless, that you are free, that you are eternal, that you are complete, right? Is that your judgment, that you are at peace forever in the heart of God? Is that your judgment on yourself, teacher of love? Do you believe that this is wholly true about yourself? All rhetorical questions. No, not yet. Not yet. But this is still your goal, teacher of love. What is your goal? Your goal is to prepare yourself to hear this judgment and to recognize that it is true. Right, so do you believe that this is wholly true about you? No, not yet, not yet. But this is still your goal. This is why you are here, teachers of love. This is why you are here. Why are you here, teachers of love? To prepare yourself to hear love's judgment, God's judgment on you, and to recognize that God's final say on you, love's final say on you is true. That's your function. That's your goal. That's why you're here. It's your function to prepare yourself to hear God's final say on you and to recognize that it and it alone is true about you. And one instant, just one teeny tiny instant of complete belief in God's final say on you, and you will go beyond belief to certainty. That's because one instant out of time can bring time's end. Wow. So, yes, it's true. God's final say, God's final judgment on us is not ours, but God's final judgment on us is a big improvement, to say the least. Have your judgments on yourself led you to experiencing yourself as holy, experiencing yourself as free, experiencing yourself as complete? Have your judgments on yourself led you to total liberation from all limits and ended your sorrow? Have your judgments on yourself done that? Has what you've learned about yourself in the past liberated you and released you from all limitations, all guilt, all shame? No, of course not. Only God's final say on you will liberate you completely from all that seems to burden you and shackle you and enslave you and imprison you and limit you. Only what God says about you. And what God says about you, that's the final word. That's the final say. You know why? Because you didn't create yourself. You didn't create yourself, but God did. And all it takes is one instant of completely believing this about the truth about yourself, and you will go beyond belief to certainty. So one instant of believing completely what God says about you, God's judgment on you, one instant of believing completely what God says about you, then you will go way past believing that that's true about you to certainty that that is the truth about you, that you are holy, that you are free, that that you are complete, lacking nothing, and that you are at peace forever in the heart of God, and that sorrow is no more. So all it takes is one instant of complete belief, and then you'll go beyond, like, I'm trying to believe that, to certainty. That is the truth about me, because that's what God has established as the author of my reality. And I've now gone beyond I believe to I know. Okay, that's the goal here. To go beyond belief, like, oh, I believe, I want to believe, to I know. That's certainty, that's knowledge. Right now, we're still trying to believe what God, our author, says about us. We're still trying to believe what God says about us for one instant. We haven't even believed completely what God says about us for one full instant, or else we would have gone beyond I believe to I know. Okay? The whole goal here is to accept the truth about yourself, to accept the truth about yourself where you know it, and you're not like, I'm trying to believe, I wish I believed, I kind of believe, I say I believe, but I don't really believe because I don't have full certainty. So, but that moment when you accept God's final say of you, it is so powerful that it can take you past believing to, I know it's true. And now I don't doubt it anymore. And I don't suffer anymore because I'm not doubting anymore the truth about my being, right? All my suffering comes because I don't know who I am. I suffer because I believe I am what I think I am. And I suffer because I think I am what they think I am. You know, all suffering comes from ignorance. It comes from not knowing, which means not accepting, which means not seeking for the truth of your being from the author of your being, whom is God, who is only love. Only love. Okay, beautiful. Hi, Irene. Lovely to see you here. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, great. And is the sound and visual still good, you guys? All right. And if you wouldn't mind liking, sharing, and subscribing, that would be so helpful for this channel. It's a wonderful way to support this ministry without doing anything except clicking a button. Just clicking that like button. So thank you for supporting this ministry, and also thank you for supporting humanity in liking, sharing, and subscribing, because every time you do that, it increases the reach of this video to the world. So it's so simple. It doesn't cost anything, but it does increase the reach of this message. And you know, what does the world need to hear more than this? Truly, truly. So thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I appreciate it so much. And on behalf of the world that needs these ideas so desperately, thank you. On behalf of the world that you are helping to save. Because what did it say? It said here, when you accept the moment, it says the very moment, the very day that you decide that you want to accept love's final say on you as author of your reality, on that very day, you receive it. And on that very day, the world is set free through you. That's what it says. I know that's hard to believe. I'm like, how could that be? I accept the truth about myself, and on that very day, the world is saved through me. And I ask that, you know, because we don't see the connection between ourselves and the world. We really think we're separate, and that's why we suffer. That's why we feel alone and lonely. That's why we feel scared. If you feel separate, that means you feel alone. And how could you not be afraid if you feel alone? Separation can only lead, a belief in separation can only lead to fear, right? Nobody's like, I believe I'm totally alone and on my own and I feel fabulous. Right? Said no one ever. You feel good when you know you're not alone and you're not on your own. Only then can you relax. Only then do you feel innocent. So, the Course in Miracles says we have only one problem. There's only one thing we suffer from, and it's the belief that we are separate. Because that's what leads to fear. And then that's what leads to anger and attack, which leads to a world at war within itself and a mind at war within itself. Okay, so paragraph 2, right? Okay, we already did that. Now, so it says, one instant out of time can bring times in. So one instant of believing completely the truth about you as established by your only loving creator can end time, can bring times in. Woo, okay. So don't judge, teachers of God. So we just ask ourselves a question. Is God's judgment of you as guiltless now and forever, holy, free, and what? Holy, free, and complete, and in peace in the heart of God forever? Is this your judgment on yourself, teacher of God? No, not yet. Okay. But don't you judge, teacher of God. I think Spirit just released her judgment. Don't judge. Don't you judge. So we're asking for God's final judgment, but then it says, and don't you judge. Because if you judge, O teacher of love, you only judge yourself, and you thus delay love's final judgment on you. You thus delay accepting love's final judgment. Every time you judge, even though you're not the author of reality of them or you, every time you judge yourself, instead of accepting love's judgment on you, every time you judge, teacher of God, you but judge yourself and delay the acceptance of love's final say on you, and experiencing the total liberation and the end of sorrow and the liberation of the world through you. You thus delay when you judge yourself instead of accepting love's judgment on you. What is your judgment on the world, O teacher of God? Have you yet learned to stand aside and hear the voice of God in yourself, judging? Another rhetorical question. What's your judgment on the world, O teacher of God? Is it only sinlessness now and forever for everybody? Have you yet learned how to stand aside and hear the voice of God within yourself? Or do you still attempt to take God's role from God? Have you learned to stand aside and hear the voice for God and receive God's judgment on you and others? Or are you still attempting to take God's role from God and be the judge of others and yourself instead? Which one? So, if your answer is the second one, well, no, I haven't learned to stand aside and just listen for God's judgment in myself. I am still attempting to take God's role of judgment from God and be the judge myself and create a whole lot of chaos and drama. Okay, if your answer is that, then learn to be quiet. Learn to be quiet. So what's the opposite of taking God's role and judging everyone and judging myself and judging that and taking God's role? I'm God. I know enough to judge everyone and everything myself. I'm the author of reality. I'm the expert on myself. I'm my own author. I'm their author. I can judge them. I can judge myself. Okay. What's the opposite of judging? The opposite of judging is learn to be quiet. Learn to be quiet. What does that mean? That means learn to be quiet, because God's voice is heard in quiet. So you can only hear God's final say upon you in quiet. So you must learn to be still so that you can hear God's final say on you, which is a hell of a lot more loving and peaceful and joyous than yours ever was. So we learn to be quiet, which is, what does that mean? What does that mean? Does it mean like go like this? What it means to learn to be quiet is it means don't judge. Stop judging. For just a moment, don't judge. Don't be the judge of what things mean, of what you mean, of what they mean, about what should be happening. Don't judge. Realize you can't judge because you're not the author of reality. You don't know enough to judge because you're not the author of reality. So learn to be quiet. Learn to stand aside from judgment and learn to hear the voice for God within yourself. Learn to stop judging. Be quiet so that you can hear God's judgment, the voice of God giving God's judgment on you, which is only, you are guiltless now and forever. You are holy. You are free. You are complete. And you are at peace forever in the heart of God. That's what we're learning how to do. Oh, teachers of love. That's what teachers of love are learning how to do. This is saying to you, teacher of love, this is why you're here. This is why you came. This is your function, is to learn how to stand aside from your judging so that you can hear the voice for God within you, having the final say on you and on everyone, which is nothing but sinlessness all day long. Wow. And what happens when that moment comes, when that day comes, and we have learned to stand aside from our judgments and listen to the voice for love, giving love's final say on us? What did it say is going to happen? It said on that very day, the world is going to be released, liberated through us. It says on that very day, all sorrow disappears for us. Wow. So when I accept the truth about myself from the author of my being, instead of listening to my judgments, which are just what I learned from the past, people who didn't know the truth about me, when that day comes and I welcome God's say above my say, then the world will be freed through me and I will be released from sorrow that very day. And not a day later. So, learn to be quiet. Learn to stand aside from all your judgments of what things mean and what you are and what they are and what should be happening and what you should be doing and what they should be doing and on and on and on, all of our judgments. Thank you. Thank you, last I am. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and the fellowship. Thank you. So appreciate it. That's what I'm here for. And that's what we're here for. Like it said, is love's judgment on you your judgment of yourself, oh teacher of love? No, not yet, because we don't believe it yet. But it says this is still our goal. This is still why we are here. It is our function here to prepare ourselves to hear God's final judgment on us and to recognize it as true. That's why we're here. This is our goal. This is our function. It's to prepare ourselves to hear love's final say on us, love as the author of our being, and to recognize that it is true. That's why we're here. Isn't it wonderful to remember your purpose? The Course in Miracles says, you will never rest until you find your function and fulfill it. And the Course in Miracles is telling us all through the book why we are here, what our true function is here, so that, you know, this is not our final destination. This is just our school where we learn, where we prepare ourselves to hear love's final say and to recognize that it is the truth and the only truth. And then where we go from here is the real world. The real world. That's the world where you're not like, oh, I believe, I want to believe that I'm good. You go to the real world where you know that the truth is true. And, you know, you don't need to believe the truth because you know the truth is true, and you enjoy the freedom and the bliss and the abundance and the eternal life that it is. Okay, so that's what the real world is. You know, here we're like, oh, trying to believe. I'm like, trying to believe, you know, I'm trying to believe that what God says about me is the truth and the only truth, and experience the joy and liberation that comes from that. But there will come a time when I'm going to accept it as the truth, and then I'm going to go beyond belief to certainty and knowledge, and I'm going to be experiencing the real world. And I don't even have to die to do it. Yes. Beautiful. Dr. Zillard says, let's celebrate that of all things we thought the truth was, it is kind. Amen to that. I don't know if you were listening earlier, but that's what I was saying. That was one of the characteristics of God's final say, God's judgment on us. It is always loving. It is only loving. It is only kind. And God's final say on us is, you are sinless now and forever. You can't change what you are. You are guiltless now and forever. Yes, you can make mistakes, but that doesn't change your essential reality as guiltless and sinless as you were created. Okay? And then it says, and God's final say, God's final judgment on us is, you are holy, which means you are guiltless. You are free, which means nothing can contain you. Nothing can really limit you at all, not even a body, definitely not death. And you are whole. You are complete. You are lacking for nothing. And you are at peace forever in the heart of God. That's where you live. That's God's say. God's love's final judgment on you. Thank you, Naya. Oh my goodness. Thank you for that super chat. Naya says, Anna, I appreciate your voice in teaching the Course in Miracles. A reminder that we are one, a sinless child of God, in the moments that we can free ourselves of judgment and be one with Creator. Amen. Thank you, Naya. So appreciate that. I appreciate that you heard what I said and that you put your money where your appreciation was. Thank you for that. It's always wonderful. Okay. All right. So here we go. And I love what it's saying, that the way that you accept love's final say about you and experience the end of the sorrow and the liberation and the setting of the world free through you, that all happens when you learn to be quiet, which means stand aside from your judgments about yourself or others or what things mean, right? Where you stop being trying to be the author of reality, realizing that you don't know because you are not the author of reality. And so you stand aside from judgment. You stop judging for a moment. That's what it means to be quiet, to become still. And only as you become quiet and become still and you stand aside from all of your judgments, only then can you hear the voiceful love within you telling you about the truth about yourself as sinless now and forever, as holy, as free, and as complete, meaning not lacking anything. Okay? Only from learning how to be quiet, learning how to be still, learning how to stand aside from your judgments and going. That's why, the first 2 or 3 workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles, to accomplish this, the first 2, 3, 4, 5 workbook lessons is, I don't know what anything means. I don't know what anything for. My thoughts do not mean anything. I do not know anything. What I see does not mean anything. The first of the 365 daily workbook lessons is teaching you how to stand aside from your judgment and to acknowledge and practice throughout your day standing aside from judgments in acknowledgement that you are not the author of reality, and so you don't know enough to judge. Realizing that it teaches you that your judgments are blocking your acceptance or your hearing of love's final say, love's truth about you. Okay, so, and then last I am says, through being quiet and going inward and constant authenticity and forgiveness of myself, I am present and I heal myself and others through grace. That's it. That's exactly what it's saying, last I am. You heard it right. Thank you for hearing that. Okay. Beautiful. And I love the Course in Miracles definition of what it means to be learn how to be quiet, So learning how to be quiet isn't like, I'm going to try to think about nothing for a minute. Oh my God, this is so hard. That's not what learning to be quiet means. It means learning how to stop judging for a second. And if you can stop judging for a second, let me tell you, miracles happen. Even for a second. Because what did it say about an instant? It said even one instant of no judgment can bring about time's end. One instant of no judgment of your own, and you can go beyond belief to certainty. So a lot can happen in an instant. Truly, a lot can happen in an instant. All it takes is one instant of learning to be quiet and stop judging so that you can be quiet enough to hear love's final judgment on you saying, honey, you are sinless. You are guiltless now and forever, no matter what mistakes you've made. You are free. You are not held down, held back, and limited by this, that, or another. And you are complete. You're not missing anything. There's not anything that you need to go get and find in order to be happy, in order to be whole, in order to be loving and lovable. There ain't nothing you need. You're complete. Okay. Now, paragraph 3. How are we doing on time? Okay. All right. Oh, such good stuff. Oh, good. We're doing great because there's only 3 paragraphs in the whole thing. God, it's got to be one of the shortest sections in the entire course. Wonderful. That's excellent. Okay. Now, this last paragraph is really talking to us. I just love it when the Course talks right to us. Okay. So, paragraph 3. So we just heard about God's final say on us, love's final say on us. We just heard what God's final say on us is. We just heard that that is not what we believe about ourselves, because we're still judging ourselves according to what we learned about ourselves in the past from people who didn't know the truth about themselves. Right? And we just heard what happens when we stand aside for even just a moment from our judgments on everyone and everything. You know, we set the world free through us and we escape our own sorrows. Okay, so that's what we heard in the first two paragraphs. Now in paragraph number 3, it says, you who are sometimes sad, you who are sometimes angry, you who sometimes feel your just due is not given you, and you who sometimes feel like your best efforts meet with lack of appreciation and even with contempt, you give up these foolish thoughts, because they are too small and too meaningless to occupy your holy mind an instant longer. Okay, so now it's just speaking right to us and giving us very good instructions. Okay, so in the first two paragraphs, it's talking about how love sees us, how love has created us to be, and how that's our only reality and the only thing that keeps us from experiencing and appreciating and enjoying the total liberation from knowing how love sees us and how love has created us to be is our own judgments that we learned from the past. And then it speaks to the part of us that has not learned how to be quiet and stand aside from our judgments and listen to the voiceful love within us telling us of our real truth. Okay, and so it says, so now it speaks to us and it says, you who are sometimes sad, check. You who are sometimes angry, check. You who sometimes feel your just due is not given you and your best efforts meet with lack of appreciation and even with contempt, check. Give up these foolish thoughts. And why should we give up these foolish thoughts? Because they are too small and too meaningless to occupy our holy minds for one instant longer. Okay. So it's talking about standing aside from our own judgments so that we can hear the truth, God's truth for us. And what are our judgments that we're listening to instead of God's judgments? It's this. Here's my judgments. It just checked them. I just checked the list. Here's my judgments. Sometimes I'm sad. Sometimes I'm angry. Because sometimes I just feel like my just due is not given me, and I feel like my best efforts meet with lack of appreciation and even contempt. Those are my judgments on myself. Instead of going, oh, I am as God created me. I'm holy, I'm free, I'm sinless now and forever, I'm complete, and I'm at peace forever in the heart of God. Okay? No. I haven't accepted truth's judgments on me. I haven't accepted my reality. I'm still going, you know, my best efforts were not met with appreciation. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about, wow, I'm so grateful that I was created sinless now and forever. That I was complete. I was created complete. I was created free. No. My judgments are, no matter how much I do, it's never good enough. All my best efforts meet with lack of appreciation and even contempt. I don't feel like my just due is given me. That's why I'm sometimes sad and angry. Those are my judgments. And these judgments that I'm listening to are what is making noisy my mind so that my mind isn't quiet enough to hear the truth about me, which is not, your best efforts are not appreciated. The truth about you is, you know what? You were created perfect. You remain perfect. You remain complete, which means lacking nothing. You're totally free. You're totally loved. And anything besides that is just a dream. Okay. Now it says, he says, we who are tempted to still be judging ourselves, to be not appreciated. Oh, my best efforts are not met with appreciation. It says, give up these foolish thoughts. Stand aside from them. Give up these foolish thoughts. Give up your judgments on yourself. My judgment is, I'm not appreciated enough. I do this, I do that, and my best efforts still meet with lack of appreciation and even contempt. I feel like I haven't received my just due. He says, give up these foolish thoughts. Okay? Your judgment is, I'm not getting my due. They're not appreciating me. That's your judgments on yourself. And those judgments on yourself are keeping your mind totally loud and occupied, too loud to hear the quiet voice of love telling you the truth about yourself. So it says, give up these foolish thoughts, you innocent child of God. They are too small and too meaningless to occupy your holy mind an instant longer. The way God sees you, God's judgment on you, love's final say on you, it's waiting for you. It is waiting for you. And you know why it's waiting for you? It's waiting to set you free. That's why it's waiting for you. It's not waiting for you to get you and to judge you and to send you to hell. Love's final word on you, love's final judgment on you is waiting for you to set you free. Set you free from pain. Set you free from fear. Set you free from shame. Set you free from addictions. To set you free from suffering. And to set the world free through you. That's what love's judgment is waiting for you for. Now, what can the world hold out to you, regardless of your judgments on the world's gift, that you would rather have than love's judgment on you, which sets you free and sets the world free through you? What could you want? What could the world offer you that would offer you more than what love's judgment on you offers you? What is it that power, fame, money, physical pleasure could give you? What is it that the body could offer you that can offer you more than total and complete liberation from all suffering, and then the world released through you? What could offer you, what of the world, what of the body could offer you more than the total liberation and the total liberation of the world that accepting the truth about yourself from God offers you? Just another rhetorical question that the author of the course loves to ask. Okay, great. Then it says, yes, you're going to be judged in the end, but you're going to be judged in fairness and you're going to be judged in honesty. And you know why in the end you're going to be judged in fairness and in honesty? It's because there's no deceit in God. And that's because God's promises are sure. They're certain. Only remember that, yeah, you're going to be judged in the end, but you're going to be judged in fairness and in honesty because there is no deceit in God. And that means that God's promises are certain. Just remember that. God's promises have guaranteed God's judgment and God's alone. Let me say that again. Only remember that. God's promises have guaranteed that God's judgment and only God's judgment will be accepted in the end. So, because God's judgments are the way it is, then God's judgments, God's promises have guaranteed that God's judgment of your sinlessness now and forever, you're wholly free and complete, and only that will be accepted in the end by everyone. That's the way it is. In the end, everyone will accept God's judgment of them as the only truth and the only reality there is or could be. That's guaranteed. Okay? And that's the good news. Everybody will accept the truth about themselves, the loving, sinless, guiltless, free, and eternal truth about themselves. Everyone will accept that for themselves in the end. Now, that end may seem to take a long time, but that's the guarantee that God gives. That's God's guarantee. Okay? And you don't get a more certain guarantee than God's guarantee. And God has set up a reality that guarantees that everyone will accept the truth about themselves as guiltless and sinless forever in the end. Okay? And the only thing that determines when that would be is us. You know, how long do I want to worship and value what I learned about myself, the unloving, unhappy, broke, and unhappy truth judgments I learned about myself? How long do I want to still cherish and cling to those false beliefs about myself in place of the truth about my reality as established by God, who is the author of reality, who says that my reality is guiltless now and forever, holy, free, and eternal. Okay. So, like the Course in Miracles says, this curriculum, what does it say at the beginning? It says, free will does not mean that you can choose the curriculum. It just means you can choose when you want to take the curriculum. It says this curriculum is a required course. Everybody's going to take it. And everybody's going to eventually pass it in the end. That's a given. That's guaranteed. It's just the only thing that is up for you to decide is when you want to do it. Do you want to accept the truth about yourself now? Or do you want to accept the truth about yourself later? Do you want to accept the truth about yourself now? Or do you want to suffer a little bit more with believing your judgments about yourself and then finally accept the truth about yourself later? So that's the only free will we have. Free will doesn't mean I get to choose the curriculum. The curriculum is that you prepare yourself to accept the truth about yourself, God's final say on you. That is your function here, okay? Now, how long you decide to do that, that is up to you. But that you will do that in the end and be free finally forever from guilt, sorrow, suffering, lack, and limitation, that's guaranteed. The only thing that your free will applies to is when you want to have that freedom, when you want to experience that liberation. How much longer do you want to suffer from the effects of your false judgments on yourself and others? That's the only thing that is up to you. When? When do you want to experience that liberation from suffering? When do you want to allow the world to be set free through you? When do you want that? Do you want to suffer a little bit more with your judgments and being right about what you learned, even though it makes you unhappy? Or do you want to do it right now, in an instant? Because all it takes is an instant for 1 instant to believe completely what your author, what your creator says about you. And unless you're hearing You are guiltless now and forever. You are holy. You are sinless. You are free. You are complete. And you are at peace forever in the heart of God. Then you are not hearing the truth about yourself. You are just believing your own judgments about yourself that are false, that you learned in the past from people who did not know the truth about their own selves. So, when, O child of God, when? That's the only question. Today, perhaps tomorrow, but it is guaranteed. It is guaranteed that eventually you will accept what love says about you, what your loving author, what your loving creator has established as your sinless, guiltless, free, and complete reality has established for you. Yes. Jerry says, in him there is no darkness at all, and love is setting all the captives free. Amen to that. Amen. And pass my chopstick. All right. So beautiful. This is our function. This is why we are here, to prepare ourselves to hear love's final judgment. Forgive me on Facebook for a moment, guys. Oh, what a difference. So I was getting really dark there on the Facebook feed. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Last I am says, emit truth. Emit truth. I think that is the Hebrew word for truth, right? All right, okay. Now, so let's see. So great. It says, so, you know, God's final judgment on you as sinless, free, and holy, and complete. God's final judgment is waiting for you, indeed. Why? To set you free. God's final judgment on you isn't waiting for you to punish you and send you to hell. God's final judgment on you is waiting for you to set you free from suffering and lack and limitation. Okay, then it says this, you will be judged in the end, but you will be judged in fairness and you will be judged in honesty. Only remember that. God's promises have guaranteed that God's loving judgment and God's loving judgment alone will be accepted by you and everyone in the end. Thank you for that guarantee, God. And it is your function, teachers of love, healers of the world, to hold God's judgment of you in your heart and to offer God's judgment of you as guiltless and sinless now forever, and offer it to all the world to keep God's judgment safe. That is so beautiful. I just love that. You know, God's promises have guaranteed that God's loving judgment of sinlessness and guiltlessness forever for everyone will be accepted in the end by everyone. Okay? But it's our function here and now to do what? To make that end be soon. That end where everyone accepts love's judgment of them in the end. Our function is to make that end, that goal, be soon. And how do we do that? Well, it's our function to hold God's final judgment, to hold love's final say for all of us in our heart, to hold that final judgment in our heart. I am guiltless and sinless now and forever. I am holy. I am free. I am complete as God created me, and I am at peace forever in the heart of God. My function is to hold that loving judgment near to my heart and to offer it to all the world to keep it safe. Beautiful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Hi, Mohammed Saeed. Welcome. Thank you for joining, and thank you for your loving feedback. Thank you, thank you. All right. So, guys, that's the end of the section. in the section, let me put that back up so that you can remember where we're at. We're in A Course in Miracles. We're in the Teacher's Manual section, and we're on question number 15, is each one to be judged in the end? That's just so that you remember where that's at. Now, if you would like to make a financial expression of appreciation to this Course in Miracles ministry, then you can go to divinerevolutionarq.com and you can make a financial expression of appreciation. And thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for your super chats. I deeply appreciate that very much. You know, it takes a lot to produce these classes and these videos, and so all that you share in that goes into making more and sharing it more with the world. So thank you with that. Okay. Wonderful. Also, at my website, Divine Revolution ARQ, if you would like to learn more about my Course in Miracles ministry, if you want to see Course in Miracles playlists that are there only for members, it doesn't cost anything to become a member. But if you go to my website and become a member, you can access my Course in Miracles class playlist. You can access my Songs of Freedom series, where I'm just reading Course in Miracles to beautiful music. Shortly next month, I'm starting a members-only question and answer Zoom session twice a month. The first one is March 11th, and that's for members only. And remember, it doesn't cost anything to become a member. But when you become a member of my website, then you can do the twice monthly Q&A with me, where I just call it a Course in Miracles support group. So I may bring a theme, but then it's like, what do you want to talk about with A Course in Miracles? What are your questions? What do you need? What do you need for Course in Miracles to help you to have peace with? So go to my website, divinerevolutionarq.com, become a member. It doesn't cost anything. And then we can meet each other twice a month on through Zoom and talk to each other. It'll be awesome. I can't wait to talk to you more and hear your questions, your feedback, and just get to know you. So also you can access my holistic counseling practice through my website, learn about that, learn about how to schedule a one-on-one miracle psychotherapeutic session with me if you'd like to do that. You can hear my Course in Miracles readings that are very, very therapeutic, very comforting, where I'm just reading the Course in Miracles to music, to beautiful music. So many things there on my website to enjoy. So anyway, check that out, and I look forward to seeing you guys in person Q&A through the twice monthly members Zoom chat. I look forward to meeting you guys and chatting with you. And also, this Saturday, March 7th, me and my co-teacher, Carla Adams, are doing our quarterly Course in Miracles play shops in person at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center in Denver. So at this point, these Course in Miracles workshops, play shops, are in person. So they're in person at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center, and they're quarterly. So the next one is coming up Saturday, March 7th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the topic of this one is, what is the real world? What does the Course in Miracles say about what the real world is and how to experience it, how to access it? And the Course, from today's lesson, what the real world is the world that you experience when you have accepted love's judgment on you in place of your old judgments and your old learnings about yourself. And and the Course in Miracles says, to experience the real world, you don't have to die, you don't have to be a billionaire, that it is a matter of making the decision that you now want to accept what your Creator says about you as sinless now and forever. and you want to stand aside from all that you learned about yourself, all the judgments that you learned to make about yourself and others, and how to experience a whole nother world, that celebrates and supports and mirrors your true self. So, if you want to register for that, you can go to my website, Divine Revolution ARQ, and there should be a banner there. And you don't have to pay up front, but just let us know that you're coming so we know we will be providing lunch, okay? And that's in person at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center in Denver on March 7th. Okay. Nice. Thank you for sharing that. I look forward to being at the Miracle Center soon. Beautiful. Wonderful. We have such a beautiful, beautiful community, Course in Miracles community growing now at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center here in Denver. It's just such a miracle to behold and to experience. All these people showing up every Sunday to learn A Course in Miracles together and to support each other in the acceptance of these ideas and the celebration of these ideas. So we always have, and then that reminds me, every other Sunday at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center, I teach in person and online from the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center. So if you are in the Denver area and you would like to come to one of my classes in person at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center, then just go to the website of the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center to see when I'm teaching or to learn about, what's going on at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center. The address is there on your screen, RockyMountainMiracleCenter.org. You can learn who is teaching. I'm teaching every other Sunday there. Every second and fourth Sunday, I teach at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center in person. So if you're in the Denver area and you would like to come be in one of my classes in person and experience the amazing community that is growing there at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center, then come on down. We would love to see you, love to have you. We're having a great time every Sunday after our Course in Miracles class gathering. We always have some amazing food, and we gather and we eat and we talk, and we have incredible food. So come check that out. We would love to see you and love to meet you, and come on down and feel that you're not alone in trying to fulfill your function as a teacher of love in the world right now. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, guys, now I just want to do a 2 or 3 minute integration meditation where we just close our eyes and breathe. And I'm going to take you through the ideas so that we just take a few minutes and just feel the ideas, allow them to percolate from our mind down into our hearts, and use the ideas wherever we may be needing them in our life right now. Where is it in your life right now where you are not experiencing the sense of innocence, feeling of freedom, feeling of peace? Where is it you're not feeling complete, you're not feeling fulfilled? That's where it is you want to be applying these ideas in this practice, in this integration meditation. All right. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so if you are able to, if you are not driving a car or operating heavy machinery right now or walking a tightrope while listening to this class, then close your eyes and take a breath and just breathe. And just notice how you feel right now, having heard these ideas. How do you feel having heard these ideas? And just breathe. What does it feel like inside of you to hear the ideas in A Course in Miracles? What does it feel like in your mind? What does it feel like in your body to hear these ideas? What does it feel like in your spirit to hear these ideas? And just notice that. These ideas are so loving, so healing, sometimes so hard to believe. But aside from them being hard to believe, how do they feel to even just hear them? Beautiful. All right. So now I want you to bring to your awareness a situation or a relationship in your life right now where you don't have peace and calm and quiet in your mind about it. What is that area of life? What is that relationship in your life where in your mind there's not peace, there's not calm, there's stress, there's anxiety, there's fear, there's anger, there's shame, there's guilt, there's pain, there's lack, there's loss? Wherever that area of your life is, whatever relationship that is, I want you to bring it to your awareness. And I want you now to tell yourself, I want to hear love's final say on me and this matter right now. Decide, in this instant now, I want God's final say on me instead of my judgments that I learned from the past that have not made me happy. And then now let's learn how to be quiet. Let us learn right now how to stand aside from all of our unhappy, painful, angry, sad judgments. Let us learn how to stand aside from all of those perceptions where we have been mistreated, misperceived, not given our just due. Let's learn to stand aside from our sadness. Let's learn to stand aside from our anger. Let's learn for a moment to stand aside from our grievances and learn how to listen in quiet to love's quiet, still voice within us. Say, love, God, I want to hear what you think about me right now. How do you see me right now? What's your final say on me right now, love? And listen in quiet for love's voice, which can only be heard in quiet. And let's listen and let's ask love. Let's ask God. God, who is only love, what's your final say on me right now? And listen in quiet. Lay aside your judgments. Lay aside your offenses. Lay aside your grievances. And come with holy, open, empty hands unto your loving God and ask for love's final say on you. Listen as love says, my child, you are sinless and guiltless now and forever. Oh, my child, you are holy. Oh, my child, you are free. And my child, you are complete. You're whole. You're missing nothing. You're needing nothing to be wholly loving and lovable now and forever. And oh, my child, I know you think you're in a body and you're in time, and I know you think you are in trouble, and I know you think you are in need. But oh, my child, really, you are at peace forever in my heart. Breathe that in. Hold this truth in your heart. Hold it to your heart. Cherish it. This truth about you. And offer it to all the world, that they may be released with you and through you in this holy instant now. Beautiful. Thank you all so much for joining this healing circle. I so appreciate your presence. I know that you are very busy, and you know, who listens to an hour and a half broadcast these days anyway. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, and subscribing. Thank you for sharing this in whatever way you may choose to do that. Thank you for your energy, your questions, your comments, your presence. I appreciate you more than I can say. And I will see you next time I see you.